I'm Amanda Knox, and you're listening to Hard Knocks. Hello, it is me, Amanda Knox, speaking today with my husband and co-producer in all things, Christopher Robinson, for yet another episode of Who's Right. Of course, it is me.
We'll see about that.
We'll see about that, folks.
Yeah, it might be me.
It might be you. I'm not sure. What are we discussing today? What are we debating?
We're discussing excuses. And so if it's not me, I'm going to have a good excuse this time.
So in what context excuses specifically? Like, are you apologizing for something and are you making an excuse? Are you leaving a party?
There's several variations of this I think we can touch on. But yeah, I think the simplest version here is you did something wrong. You failed to meet an obligation. You delivered a substandard, result to somebody that violated their expectation in some way. And you give them a reason why, right? So like,
this actually reminds me of a thing that I read about email protocol, where it's suggested that you do not apologize for when you violate email protocol, and instead reframe your transgressions in positive terms that start you on the right foot as opposed to the wrong foot.
And can you give me an example of that?
Yes. So a concrete example of this would be, instead of saying, sorry for the delay in response, a classic thing that any one of us has written, the advice is to say, thank you for your patience. Da, 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 da. So it's acknowledging that it's not pretending that the lapse in time didn't happen, but instead of framing it as some kind of fault on your part, you frame it as a value, like you are valuing them for their, for their good quality that they've been able to.
And not only are you not apologizing, you're definitely not saying, oh, my kid had the flu and, it was a rough week.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Now let's proceed. And I kind of am a believer in that. Like, I don't think that everyone needs, I feel like the general assumption should be that life is hard and things come up, and we should acknowledge if we have made someone wait. Especially, I think waiting especially is like such a minor transgression that it doesn't require explanation. Like, we all know why you're late. Life happened.
Well, you're late because you didn't prioritize me is the answer. Like, as a person who's always on time to things.
So this
right?
is
Like that's...
no. Okay, this is where I think people make mistakes by taking things personally. Like, yes, in a way, technically that is true. This person didn't prioritize your email over something else. But like, why do you even have to frame that in your head? Like, framing it that way in your head automatically is positioning you to have resentment towards another human being that you just don't need. You don't need it. There's so many, like, just don't give yourself extra opportunities to feel resentment in life, because it's going to make you a less happy person. You're going to have less fulfilling relationships and you're going to be less happy. So just like general word of advice from Amanda Knox, avoid at all costs giving yourself and indulging in finding fault in people, and instead embrace that life is messy and people are fallible, and that's just the way it is. So
I just want to stick on this for a second. I hear you and I value that perspective. I think you're right about the personal benefits to your own psychology and your mind state.
To your relationships.
But I also think that if you want to see reality clearly, when you're interacting with someone, especially a relationship where someone is routinely late for something, for engagements with you of one kind or another, like, it's not just that life happens. Life just doesn't happen to that person more than it happens to you. right?
Well, then in that situation, it's even less personal because this person who is routinely late.
I'm not arguing that you should be taking it personally, but I'm saying that let's not pretend that this is just the whim of the universe that is happening over and over again. It's a sign of respect. This person is not respecting you.
No. Again, no. That is saying it as a sign of disrespect is you taking it personally. You are feeling disrespected. And you're saying that this person is just disrespectful of other people in this way a million times over. And I think that that's the wrong way of looking at it. This person it's a personal thing to this person that they are really bad at navigating space and time for themselves. And it's not at all about not prioritizing other people. It is the fact that like they personally have a really hard time like gauging space and time to such an extent that they are routinely finding themselves in positions of being late. And like, I look at this in the same way as I look at like my inability for numbers to have meaning, right? Like people just say numbers and I'm just like, they're just like it's almost as if they are random to me.
I think this is a story you're telling yourself and that you're perfectly capable of intuiting and grasping numbers, even complex numbers.
Boo, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there are some things that I am better at grasping on an intuitive level than you are, like other people's emotions. and as a result of that, so great. So can we also acknowledge that a grasp of like the inherent value and qualia of numbers
abstract mathematical thinking is what we're talking about here. And yes, everyone's on a spectrum for these various abilities. And this might not be your strongest suit, just like empathy is not my strongest suit, but you're not a rodent when it comes to this.
No, I'm not a rodent. I have to work harder in order to grasp something that someone else doesn't even have to think about grasping. And I feel it's the same way for someone who is routinely late, is that their experience of space and time is such that they just don't have an inherent grasp of it.
And I get it. And that's why there's an obligation on them to work harder. Because if you said, well, I'm bad with numbers, so I'm just not going to tip because I just can't figure out the tip and I feel anxious and I'm trying to figure out how much to tip, so I just don't tip. Then I would say, sorry, that makes you an asshole. I'm sorry numbers are harder for you than other people, but you need to find a system that allows you to be a normal tipping person unless we burn down the whole tipping system. It's a separate conversation.
I feel like we've already had a discussion on who's right about, and I think we both agreed that we should burn it down.
But like for the lateness thing, it's like, I get it. It's hard for you to do this. I'm sorry, but now there's an extra obligation on you to find a way to not waste other people's time routinely, because that's a mean thing to do to people. It's rude. You shouldn't be a person who wastes other people's time.
Look, I am someone who, of all things in the world, values time. And it is a huge pet peeve of mine when someone keeps me waiting, because I'm never the person who keeps someone waiting unless it's on email.
Let's be real.
Because in the digital world, it's just meaningless. It's so meaningless. But in the physical world, I am never, ever, ever late. And I personally, I am working really hard. And so like the counter to your they have to work really hard is I have to work really hard to not feel personally resentful towards a person who is routinely late, and try to find ways of like laughing about it instead of like gritting my teeth about it, because I value that relationship and I value my how resentment becomes a thing that like embeds itself in you. But I feel like we've gotten off track of the excuses.
Yeah, we have, but this is good argument.
Okay, no.
Like, what about a person who just is messy and like they come over to your house and then they ask for a glass of water and then they don't bring it back to the sink before they leave, and they just leave it sitting on top of your piano? Like, is that kind of, or say that's your spouse, say you live with somebody who routinely just leaves things out of place. Is that something that you expect them to work harder to figure out? Or do you just say, well, I don't want to have resentment, so I'm just going to accept that they're a person for whom navigating objects in space and remembering where they go is difficult for them?
So what I would say is it depends on what you want out of your relationship. Because I think that, yes, you should absolutely communicate the things that bother you about like what a person habitually does. But also, and I think this is like great, great, excellent relationship advice that I read from that it was delivered from like it's a Taoist idea, um, that people are the way they are. And the more you expect someone to be not what they are, the more you are attached to an idea of a person than you are a real person.
Yeah, I mean, are
And
you denying that people change or that they can
I'm not
improve?
denying that people change. What I am saying, though, is that if you hold it against someone for them being the way they are, like, okay, so say you have a spouse who leaves his underwear on the floor every time he takes a shower.
That's not me. It's not me. It's only sometimes.
Yeah.
And only for the length of the shower.
Uh-huh.
All
Yeah,
right,
no,
anyway.
it's never been the case that I've had to pick up your underwear. Okay, so say you have a spouse who does that.
Total hypothetical. Yep.
Total hypothetical. And you've even said, babe, can you please just, it's really not hard. The laundry basket is really just right outside the door. Like it's just right there. It's right there. What does it cost you? Oh my God. If you've expressed that and they habitually fail to arrive at the, to imprint on their brain that underwear goes in basket and not on floor, like, you have a choice in that moment. Of course, you can continue to have the conversation. Like, I remember we had this with the diapers in the diaper pail. Can we just like get personal and how like somehow this is like the most hilarious thing too, because what you would do, just like, I could not understand why. I just could. So when Chris would change diapers, so the diaper pail is right there next to the diaper changing accoutrement. And instead of taking the dirty diaper and putting it in the diaper pail, he would just set it on top of the diaper pail.
All right. So
and just leave
do you
it
want
there.
my excuse? I'm going to give you my excuse here.
Okay. I'd love to know your excuse, because every time I changed a diaper, I managed to get it in the pail no matter what happened.
I've found a diaper or two, maybe not quite as many as I left on top, but I'm not the only person who ever failed to put a diaper in the pail.
So are you about to give me an excuse for this
I'm
behavior?
about to give you an excuse. And we're going to see how this plays out.
Okay.
So the diaper pail that we have is not a foot pedal operated pail. It has a little sealing thing that requires a hand to like slide this door open to deposit
a single
the diaper,
hand.
Right?
A single hand can get this done.
I will say that we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old now. I've never once been peed on, except for on an airplane when I just went through the diaper because it was full.
Yeah, neither have I. We've been remarkably lucky that our son is not a laying down and peer. Well,
not exactly. I wouldn't say the same for you. I mean, maybe I'll complicate it. I've also never been on duty when pee ended up all over the floor. Can you say the same?
What are you talking about?
I don't think you can. So I'm saying that, like, especially...
When has pee been all over the floor? What are you talking about?
Because sometimes you'll let the kids just, like, walk around, after a bath or something for a little bit. and with a no diaper on, and like my like rule here is like as soon as that other diaper comes off, I'm putting the next one on immediately. Because I've heard the stories of the people and their little sons peeing in their face when they're changing a diaper, and I'm just like, that's not happening to me. So it's just like off and on. So like that's
Okay.
my modus operandi when it comes to the diaper change. And what that
Uh-huh.
means is I need to get it on quickly. And sometimes he's fighting me, and sometimes it's late or it's dark. And having to like open that pail is just an extra thing. And so like the way I end up putting the diaper in the pail is I do it after the change is accomplished, not mid-change.
Okay. This is still not an excuse for it not ending up in the pail, though. I don't care what order the things happen. I care that the
All right.
diaper
So what
ends
we've
up
established
in the
here is that
pail.
my excuse did not help at all.
No,
Yeah.
it's like, well, what was, you told me a story and also told a story that somehow found fault in me. So one, like, I don't understand what you were
I'm
attempting to
explaining
accomplish
my
here.
my reasoning here for why I end up having this particular failing at times. And
Okay,
this
well,
one like, non-behavioral solution that would fix it for me. And by the way, I don't think I've done this in a long time.
no, you haven't. No. And to this point that I thought that I nagged you enough times that you got it in your skull. But like, you tell me what changed. Like, how did you change that behavior of not leaving it?
Well,
Because like
really
it
what I would
was
still
a
like is a foot pedal.
multiple day
I want a foot
occurrence.
pedal operated diaper pail.
Yeah, those
But
ones don't work as well.
barring that, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the kids not fighting as much, especially when Echo was younger. He's just more squirmy, and like I didn't want him to roll off the table, and I'm trying to hold him down to get him to buckle the little Velcro strap on, and
It
now
sounds
he
like
just
you were
knows the drill.
distracted. Sounds like your excuse was you were distracted and you forgot about putting the diaper inside the pail.
Yes, because sometimes like the kid's crying and he wants a bottle, but he's also wet or whatever, and it's just like, and then sometimes, you know, I I'm there changing the diaper, but I mean, you're not even there. Maybe you're on a work trip or something,
Hmm. No, so
Um,
look, here's what I'm saying. I
there's
think
another
all
kid in the other
excuses.
room who's
No,
calling
no,
for my
look,
attention, right?
I'm I'm consolidating your excuse down to the essence of what it is, which is you were distracted. And I think ultimately all excuses come down to the same thing. I was distracted.
Well,
It's
that's
not
not true.
I was disrespecting you. It's not that you were disrespecting me because you didn't put the thing in the pail. You were
Disrespect is not an
distracted.
intentional thing.
Not
It's the
getting there on time is not an intentional thing either.
no.
People
That's
are
my point, though. Is that disrespect is what happens when you are ignoring somebody. It's lack of respect. It's a thing you didn't do.
No, but here's what I don't understand what you're saying. So back up, because somebody who is habitually late, but acknowledges that they're habitually late, is not disrespecting you. Like, and in the same way that
You don't
somebody
think
who
so?
habitually doesn't put a diaper in the pail isn't, and,
It's leaving a
acknowledges.
job for you to do. You didn't find that annoying? I mean,
I
you
did
did.
find it annoying, but I didn't think that you were purposefully being disrespectful of me.
But this is my point. There's no such thing as purpose. I mean, I guess there is like dissing somebody and
Yes, there's
intentionally
absolutely
biting your thumb at
malicious
them,
intent.
but that's not
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Disrespect in the normal sense is a form of negligence. It's not an act that you intentionally engage in. It's a thing that you fail to do.
I think that this is us arguing over semantics at this point. I tend to associate the term disrespect as one of being intentional.
Okay, well,
I
it
do not.
can be in that old school way, in the way that I'm, your mama's so fat, like I'm trying to hurt your feelings. But I think a lot of of modern day disrespect, what we mean when is a failure to meet some expectation out of a lapse of attention, right?
No, I don't think that is disrespect. I don't associate that with disrespect. I
Okay,
associate
well,
that with being
you're telling me that
distracted.
that you're just denying my definition here.
Yes, I think, and it's important. I think it's an important one because dis for me, the idea of it's not just lack of respect. Disrespect is when you are it's there is some intention behind it. That, and maybe I feel like maybe this might be the source of some of our arguments, actually, is when like I like sometimes I feel like what you mean by you're disrespecting me and what I mean by you're disrespecting me are completely different things. Um, and I do not think that, and even like lack of respect suggests that you're withholding it. Like disrespect as if you're withholding respect from somebody suggests intentionality. Whereas if, for all intents and purposes, you have utter respect for this person, but you're distracted and so you didn't live up to that, like the most respectful scenario. Like, I feel like that's a really important distinction. And when it comes to the issue of making excuses, if you feel like you have to reaffirm that you respect someone due to the I mean, is that what an excuse is meant to do? Is to sort of reaffirm the fact that you acknowledge and respect the person after a transgression that was not intentional?
Yes, the whole point of the excuse is to clarify it wasn't my intent. It's to say motive matters, and this wasn't my motive, and I want to prove it to you by telling you what was really going on in my mind and with my actions, and so that you know that I wasn't trying to slight you. But I would say, like, say you're in a conversation with somebody and they talk over you repeatedly. It's rude, right? You've all been in a class or social situation with a person like that. That person's not trying to be rude to you. They just don't notice that they're talking over you. And it's a way that they are oftentimes, I've found. And the same is true of someone who, tracks mud on your floor, doesn't notice when they come into your house that they have muddy boots and they don't wipe their boots and now there's mud on your floor. Is that disrespectful to your space, to your house? That's a word I would use for that. But it's not because they're trying to get mud on my floor.
I wouldn't use it. For me, it only becomes disrespectful when you bring it to their attention and then they ignore the fact that you've brought it to their attention.
Well,
Like,
that's making it intentional, is what
right.
you're saying.
Well, and that's for me when it becomes disrespectful. Like, how do you know? Like, let's just say, like, every single what somebody expect, like, let's pretend that every single person is their own cultural microcosm, and there are like taboos and things, like, say in my little microcosm you don't wear shoes in the house, and say in your microcosm nudity is taboo. Well, if we don't communicate that to each other, if I don't know that, if that's not understood, if that's just like not on my radar, like I'm going to walk around your house naked and not know that like that's a taboo. And you're going to walk into my house wearing your
All right,
shoes. And like,
you have a crazy
it's not
definition
disrespect.
of respect and disrespect here. Like there's duties and obligations, right? When you're looking at ethics, right, there's some things that you can be ethically judged for by your actions that you commit, and some for the actions you fail to commit. And those are when you have a duty or an obligation. And what I'm claiming here is that living in a polite society comes with certain obligations and duties
But
to your
not
fellow
everyone
human.
agrees on what those are. Like, nobody goes to finishing school anymore or agrees on this.
There are edge cases when you don't realize that you're miscommunicating with somebody. But the person who's sitting on the bus playing their phone game really loud, with Candy Crush dings going back and forth, like, I would call that disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the public space. It's disrespectful to the other people who might want to be reading a book in peace or whatever, right?
I think
They're
that
taking up more auditory space
that
than,
depends. So for me to argue that that person is disrespectful depends on if they are aware that other people
No,
are
and this is what I'm saying.
negatively impacted.
You don't understand moral obligation. They have a moral obligation to respect the people around them.
But what if they're understanding, like, what if they don't understand that this, like, a public space, it is inappropriate to play a loud Candy Crush game? Like, what if that has never, ever occurred to them? No one had, like, how can that be disrespectful?
I mean, maybe if they live in
have
Seattle and full of passive-aggressive people who've never once
I mean, you're just assuming. You're assuming that someone knows that what they're doing is a transgression and they are transgressing anyway. And I'm saying that's a huge assumption.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that they don't know and they don't care to know, and that there is a social obligation to know. And
okay,
if you
well,
didn't bother
I mean, that's what they say about the law, too. But if you don't know that the speed limit is 35 and you go 45, like, I think you should be cut some slack because you didn't know what the speed limit was.
Have you been in houses where people wear shoes in the house?
Yes, I grew up in a house like that.
Have you been in houses where people don't wear shoes in the house?
Yes,
and when you go over to a new friend's house for the first time, what do?
I typically take my shoes off.
Or do you ask?
I mean, I ask now. So I ask
should I take my shoes off?
But when I was a kid and I was growing up in a household where no one ever took their shoes off to go in the house, I frequently went into other people's houses not having any idea to even
being
ask.
Disrespectful. And like what you do now is respectful, which is you use your powers of observation to notice if your host is wearing shoes in the house. You look at if there's a sign that says shoes off, please. You see if they've got shoes lined up by the door.
All right.
If those things don't clue you in, then you can ask.
I think that I just don't think you're being fair because the million and myriad ways that somebody could possibly be offended by another person's behavior are myriad. And I don't think that anyone should ever be accused of being disrespected for things that they're not, or disrespectful for things that they're not aware of.
I mean, so is rudeness, these are basically synonyms in my book, rudeness and disrespect. Do you think rudeness is a thing that it requires intent?
Yes.
So what do you call it when somebody does something without intent that is very annoying to other people around them? Because I feel like you've eliminated the words we have to talk about this phenomenon.
I mean, I think that they're annoying. Like, that's annoying, but I wouldn't call it
and you don't ethically judge them.
No, I don't ethically judge them because I don't know what their intent is. So this is where I think that you're taking things
their intent is
personally.
Not focused on you is the point. Their intent is focused on their own world and their own stuff.
But
just
their
like the
understanding of the world is that it's not even impacting you. Like for the person who's listening to like music on the bus, who genuinely does not realize that is inappropriate behavior,
I don't think that person
is not thinking that you're having a negative reaction to this. So again, you're saying there's no person
these people like, line cutters who have never
this is
been
a great
told
example.
that they shouldn't cut in line.
Well, actually, this is a great example. We were just in India. In India, like traffic laws and line cutting, like all of those like laws and social order kind of things that we take for granted are not do not
different.
exist there.
And like that's a good example of cultural context changes what the social expectations and ethical duties are. Right. But, negligence is a thing, and and there are certain forms of negligence that are crimes because they cause tremendous harm. And that we consider such things crimes because we have an expectation that our fellow citizens will take the time and mental energy to think of how their actions will impact other people. And if they fail that obligation, we punish them for it. Right? Like if you drive down the highway with an unsecured load and the wind, or the turns like throw a bunch of stuff off the back of your car and it hits somebody else and causes a car accident, that's on you for having not secured your load, even though you didn't intend it.
No. So look, yes, if someone gets hurt from you doing something like that, for example, not tying down your load, and it, whatever, like it hurts somebody, like this is actually, I have personal experience with this where I Me, a person who does not secure loads for a living, not somebody who like has a bunch of stuff in the back of a truck. I'm not a junk, collector. I don't have a business where this is my thing, where I have to think about tying
I
things down in the
gotcha.
back of a car. Okay. There's a different expectation for my knowledge of these things than somebody who habitually does this, correct? So one time I put a treadmill in the back of a truck because I was moving houses, and my mom and I borrowed my uncle's truck, and we put the treadmill in the back of the truck and didn't secure it because we thought this treadmill is so frickin' heavy. There's no way it's going anywhere. We're not going on the highway. We're just driving at 25 miles an hour to 5 blocks away to my new location. Halfway through, the top half of my treadmill breaks off and flies off the back of the truck. And very well, if there had been anyone behind us, could have struck a vehicle and killed someone, as far as I know.
And you might have been charged with manslaughter.
And I might have been charged with manslaughter. However, I think that the law does take into consideration intent and knowledge, right? Like if you had been a person who routinely brings around, as a business, like brings rebar, or even as a moving truck that brings
I understand that intent matters in all these things.
They would be legally held accountable in different ways. Like, this is where, it's not that I was being disrespectful by putting a treadmill in the back of a truck without securing it. I just had no idea that I would even need to think about that. So it's not that I'm not thinking about other people. It's just I didn't even know that was.
But it's exactly that you didn't think about other people. Right?
No, I did think about other people. I thought there's no way in hell nothing is happening to this treadmill in the back of this truck. I just didn't, it was beyond me to think that anyone could, it's not like I thought, oh, maybe there's a risk of someone getting hurt, but I'm just going to risk it. I had zero thought. I felt 100% certain that there was zero risk in transporting this treadmill that way. And I just happened to be wrong. And that is that is not being disrespectful.
It was a form of negligence. You didn't, motive is not a part of the equation here when we're talking about negligence.
It is when you are suggesting that negligence negligence in ignorance is a form of disrespect. This is what you are arguing. And you're sort of suggesting that anyone you are suggesting that somebody, when I make the argument that someone truly does not know that, listening to their music aloud on a bus is, inappropriate and, annoying behavior. You are saying, well, it doesn't matter if they don't know, they're being disrespectful either way. And I'm trying to make the argument that that's actually not the case. They're being annoying, but they're not being disrespectful.
How about littering? Have you ever seen someone just throw something on the street?
Yes.
Okay. Is that disrespectful?
Depends on what they know.
What if they don't know that you shouldn't litter? They fucking know. They know.
Do they know?
They know. They know.
I mean, I'm going to suggest that the vast majority of people know that they shouldn't, but some people don't. Some people literally come from countries where, there's garbage everywhere. And again, it's back to the India of it all.
In your new social context to observe that there's trash cans, to observe other people's behavior, to pick up on the social norms of the place that you're in. And if you do that, it's not that you're intentionally trying to make someone else's urban experience worse. It's that you don't care because you're focused on you and you don't want to trouble yourself to walk 10 steps away to a garbage can.
But this is where you are making an assumption about when and how a person cares. How much time do you allot a person who's in a completely new context, a completely new and unfamiliar culture and context, to appreciate what all of the unspoken taboos are in
And
that
now we're talking
society.
about we're talking about a fresh off the boat immigrant is what we're talking
Yes,
about now.
yes. Or like us in India, and how like I bet I annoyed a bunch of people because I don't understand all of the like cultural things about how they keep men and women separate all the time. Like I bet I made a lot of people uncomfortable without
Yeah,
even thinking
and
it.
you know what? Like I think you get some slack in such
Okay, so
situations,
how long?
right?
How long do you get the benefit of the doubt? Because, like, for me, I'm trying to extend the benefit of the doubt as long as humanly
Indefinitely.
possible. Well,
Yeah,
in
he's
a way,
extending it
like, you don't
indefinitely.
know what you don't know. And so, like, I just feel so again, if you're assuming, if you are assuming that someone is intentionally making your life difficult,
No, that's not. I've from the beginning of this conversation, I have explicitly said I'm not assuming that. They're not
but you're
thinking about me.
contradicting yourself.
No, it's not about intent. It's explicitly about their fact that they're not thinking about me. So like let's take
But
someone,
people don't know to think about you in a way that they don't know to think about you,
they
right?
do though. They do. And I'm
It
going
what
to
it No,
here's an
like,
example.
no,
I'm going to give
you
you an
don't.
example
Like,
right
I don't
now, okay?
know. Okay, give me an
Yeah.
example.
So my brother, love my brother, great guy, one of my favorite guys in the world. He's always late. He's one of these people who just I've learned that when he says he's going to be there at 4:30, he's going to be there at 5 or 5:30, right? He just for whatever reason, his internal chronometer is off and he is unable to accurately estimate how long it will take him to get his stuff together and leave the house.
He's going to complain about this, by the way, because the last time that we met up with him, he was
He
perfectly
he
on
was
time.
it's true, he was on. I was shocked.
He
And you
was
know what?
like to the minute on
Yeah,
time.
to the minute. I was good on him. But and also to be fair, he's in a household with other people, and the sort of dynamic of his household causes this too. So it may not just be him. It may not even be him most of the time. I don't know. But the sort of household unit that he's traveling with often doesn't arrive on time. I've learned to recognize this. I know he's not trying to make me wait for him. He's not trying to like eat up 10 minutes of my day or a half an hour or whatever, right? And yet, I still believe that it's rude and disrespectful to me that he can't find a way to be on time. And I applaud him for being on time the last time we met up, right? And I think in an ideal world, he'd be on a self-improvement journey to be on time for the rest of his life.
Okay, but I agree with you insofar as it has already been communicated to him that matters.
Yeah, but it's
Like,
been years and years. It's just like,
so
it's not
it
like he
takes
learned
years and
last
years
week
for
that,
some people to like really get new behaviors and to have them, these are skills. Like I look at that as like a skill that you take for granted. You truly take for granted the skill to be able to gauge yourself in space and time.
I mean, let's look at the motive here because this is supposed to be about excuses, right? Like when you know
Presumably.
someone who is
Although now we're just
routinely,
arguing over semantics.
well, I think this is an interesting discussion about what the nature of disrespect is and motive, but it's tied in with motive, right? When someone is late all the time, if they come up and give you a reason why they're late, do you care? Not really, because you know that they're late all the time and that you've had this discussion with them and like, well, okay, well, what's the reason today? You have a
Yeah, no, you
reason,
don't care.
right? But the reason isn't the real reason. The reason you're late today when you're a person who's often late is because you have chosen not to prioritize my time high enough in your priority matrix in relation to your other priorities, whatever
Mm,
that is. That's it. That's the reason. The real
mm,
reason is that in the aggregate, you don't value my time as much as other things.
I don't
And if you
agree.
did value my time, then you wouldn't waste my time and you would show up on time to things.
I disagree. I do not think that that's what's really going on. I think and I feel like that way of of thinking about it is only going to set you up for misery and worse relationships. So what's really going on is that person can be having all the best intentions that they possibly can, but they have still not figured out the skill. They're trying, like, they're putting this skill into practice, and what is required of a person to get somewhere on time. You have to be good at tracking how long it takes you to get ready to go, to finish what you're doing. You have to be the kind of person who is capable of remembering all the thing you need to check off all the things in your brain that need to be accomplished before you can leave. You also need to be someone who can anticipate traffic, who can and if you're in a household, you have to be someone who can communicate all of those checklists and tracking to the other people in the household who are also going to be a part of your strategy get out of there. Like, there are lots of little skills that you need to obtain in order to accomplish the thing that you take for granted, which is arriving at a place on time.
I feel like all of those flow downstream from caring.
They do care. I don't think that your brother doesn't care about whether or
I mean,
not
it's sort of
he's
like
making
saying, like, I want to
people
write a
wait.
novel, right? Oh, well, there's a bunch of skills you need to learn to write a novel. You need to learn how to outline. But the thing you really need to do is commit to writing it. And if you don't commit to actually getting it done, if you don't make it a priority in your life that's higher than other priorities, then you won't learn those skills and you won't get it done. And what I'm saying is that lateness is the same kind of thing, that if you actually set your priority to not waste other people's time, then those skills would follow. You would learn them. And honestly, you commit to being early.
I
You
don't
know what I mean?
know if I'm ever going. So, look, I don't know. I think some skills can be learned, and I think some people struggle to have some skills learned. Like, I don't, I'm a smart person. I think it would take a Herculean effort for me to learn how to do my taxes. I'm just like, it's just like the effort would be so Herculean, and I would have to put aside so many other things that I need to. I mean, I guess I that is me saying that it's about prioritizing, right? Like, there are so many other things that I am putting my time and attention and effort, which is finite, towards. I am not at all remotely putting them towards learning how to decode federal bureaucratic forms and input into them meaningless numbers.
I hear you. And like, I'm not suggesting that life would be
I don't
better
think
and
that
more
means I'm
equitable if
rude
you.
or disrespectful
Well,
for that.
I mean, if you didn't have me to do that for you,
I would pay someone to do it. Like, it's
yeah,
not.
right. But like, you're meeting the obligation is the point, right? And if you fail to meet that obligation, you get penalized by the IRS. So you fucking meet that obligation and you get your taxes in on time. And you've found a way to accomplish that, which is by having me do it, right? So you're meeting your obligation and you're respecting the law and you're respecting the IRS, right? Like, think about respecting what respect means in terms of the law, right?
I
It
hate
means
that
that,
phrase. I was just about to say I hate that phrase, respecting the law, as if, like, by breaking a law. I hate that. I hate that term. I just don't. I mean,
it
yes,
means paying
if you are.
attention to it and valuing it. It's a thing that like breaking the law is a thing that you do. Respecting the law is like a thing that you don't do.
Well, sure, but I think that, again, it goes back to intention. As somebody who is selling weed back when weed was still, criminalized, they were disrespecting the law because they had no respect for that law and disagreed with it and so decided not to follow it. But, like, somebody who I don't know, like, again, me not putting a treadmill with a strap on it was not disrespecting the law because I didn't know that that was like a thing that I had to do. It's not so like it's a completely different thing.
All right, let's broaden this out for just a minute
Either way, we broke
into
the law.
into
I broke a
big
law, they broke
big
a law.
intentional ethical wrongs. Let's talk about what's coming to mind for me right now is Louis C.K. and his whole
Okay.
situation, right?
Okay.
And as a reminder for people who don't recall, he masturbated in front of people, especially female comedians who were in his career world, not necessarily people who were like his employees, but people who certainly could have benefited from the social connections to him. And
Yeah.
I believe he would do so in a way that was like, oh, do you mind if I do this? And then they would sort of jaw-droppingly sit there aghast while he did it,
Right.
without saying, don't do that, right? And so is there a plausible deniability that he's just one of those littering people who didn't know you're not supposed to do that and didn't understand the power dynamics of all this? And he was just thinking, well, I asked and they didn't say no, right? So that's one question I have. Second question, when he made his big apology after all this, I remember it being received as one of the better Me Too era apologies.
Yeah, what did he
And
say in the apology?
well, I believe he said something to the tune of like, "There's no excuses for my behavior." Like he didn't try to excuse it, right? And this is like when we look at excuses from public figures when they've done something ethically wrong. I think that's the excuse in that situation is very often seen as like that's not helping you. And the rule of thumb is you want to make a good apology, you don't make excuses. You just say, I did this and it was wrong and there's no excuse for it. And you just own it.
But except, like, I think it does matter if he intended to make women uncomfortable or not. Like, that completely changes. I mean, for
Like if
me,
it's
it's
like a
important
power
information.
thing versus
Yeah,
a
like if he like was, if part of him getting off was how uncomfortable, like he knowingly was making these women and he knew, haha, because I'm in this position, I can make them do this, like in a Harvey Weinstein kind of way, like, like then that for me is different. And when someone says, what I did was wrong and there are no excuses for it, okay, fine. But like, are you the type of like, I think it still was a part of his apology to say it wasn't my intention to make these women uncomfortable. But now I recognize that I was making these women uncomfortable and I do not make excuses for it. Like, I think he was still clarifying what his intention was because that's important. Like, he doesn't want to be seen as the kind of guy, and he doesn't want to admit to being the kind of guy who is going out of his way to make women uncomfortable. Right?
I'm looking this up right now, and AI is telling me that he was actually criticized for not having a direct "I'm sorry." Maybe he's not the best example here. We should go back and read his actual apology. But one I do remember is Dan Harmon's apology, which was, I think, incontrovertibly cited as, "Hey, no excuses. I need to learn from my mistakes here." Apology.
Which is actually, I think that's really interesting way of saying this, though. I need to learn from my mistakes is not the same thing as saying I need to own my monstrous transgressions, right? Like, he's not saying I did this and therefore no excuses, I'm a monster. He's saying I made a mistake. And when you make a mistake, it's understood implicitly in the word mistake that, like, the consequences of that choice are not something that you intended, right? Because it's a mistake.
Like Harvey Weinstein didn't make mistakes.
Yeah, he didn't make a mistake. He committed
Bill
a
Cosby
crime.
didn't make
Yeah,
mistakes. Yeah.
he intentionally hurt somebody. A
But
mistake
did
is
Louis
when
C.K. arguably make mistakes?
I mean, again, it goes back to intent. Did he, I think he would argue that he made a mistake, that he misinterpreted the scenario and he unintentionally made women uncomfortable. And now he's learned from his mistake that, oh gosh, I didn't even consider all of these things that were true that like I just didn't even consider because I was stuck in my own mindset. And I wasn't, I it didn't occur to me these factors that led to it being more harmful than I thought it would be, like whatever. Or it being harmful, and he like at the time didn't think it was harm. Like he didn't. My understanding of Louis C.K. is that he did not think that anything that he was doing was harming anybody.
I mean,
And
fundamentally, excuses are all about modulating your intent and explaining what your intent is, right? And so, even in like homicide law, right, we have degrees of murder based on level of intent. Is it a planned killing? Is it something you did in the spur of the moment? Like, were you really had your blood up and you were all rageful because of some unrelated
were
thing?
you on drugs? Were you, yeah.
Those are all things that affect your behavior and sort of help society judge whether or not you're likely to commit action like this again, which is why we value them, right? And in those contexts, if you come in and say, well, I want to explain why I was so angry right in that moment and why I ended up committing this act in a fit of rage. That's an excuse, right? That explains your behavior, explains your motive. That doesn't necessarily have to say, and I shouldn't be punished for this, right? Or I won't take responsibility for it, right? But an excuse can provide clarity to someone else while still owning the fact that you impacted them negatively.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't think excuses. I mean, here's the stupid thing. I don't think excuses are excusing the behavior. Like that's where see, our language is so flawed because I think that context matters, right? Like I've been in scenarios. So here's an example, actually. I've been in scenarios where someone has genuinely apologized to me for a thing and their context, like part of that apology was explaining their context, but it was not like explaining their context in a way to like lessen the harm that was caused. It's just for me to understand their context. And then I have been in a situation where someone is sort of denying the harm that was caused to me by explaining context at me, as if the context should be enough for me to like not consider what occurred to have been harmful. And that's where I'm like, fuck off. Because
Well, do you believe their explanation? Because if they truly didn't intend anything, right? This is my point about bringing it back to disrespect, is like you can still be harmed even if they had no intent to harm you, right?
so
And they can still
the
be the
excuse
vector
that
of
I'm
that harm.
hearing, the excuse that I am thinking of is one in which the person is recognizing misbehavior, but saying that misbehavior came with this context, and therefore you shouldn't hold that misbehavior against me. And I go, well, no, because you shouldn't. For me, what that sounds like is, okay, well, as long as this context persists, you're saying the misbehavior is going to persist. What I want to know, as someone who has been harmed, is that if you recognize something as misbehavior, that is going to now inform your context. And you're not going to continue to do the misbehavior. Like, for example, a good example of this just in general is like somebody who is like, I I steal because I'm addicted to drugs. Right? Like I steal because I need to get drugs. I'm addicted to drugs. And they're acknowledging like stealing is bad and I shouldn't do it, but I am addicted to drugs. And so I'm just going to keep stealing while I'm like what you want to hear from that person is, I recognize that what I did was a misbehavior. Here's my context, but like, I don't want to keep doing that misbehavior. Just,
So I
even though
need to
I'm
change
still,
my context.
so I need to change my context. And like, part of that is just like the recognition of like, oh my gosh, not only am I like struggling with drug addiction, but I'm also hurting people in this way. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do what I can do to not do that behavior anymore.
Can we bring
As
it back
opposed
to
to being
your
like, well, I'm just going to steal because I'm addicted to drugs. Like, that's where it's like, okay, now you're making an excuse for misbehavior that is excusing the behavior, right?
yeah. I mean, how do you feel about Aladdin? I steal only what I can afford, just like he's just like, hey, sorry, I'm poor. I'm stealing.
Well, he also lived in an unjust society where poor people were left to, like, children were left to starve on the streets and there was no, like, social safety net. And so I would say that he was not making excuses. He was just flagrantly disrespecting the law because the law didn't deserve to be respected.
Okay, that's a separate who's right. I might agree with you there, but I want to come back
You
to
love
your
Aladdin, don't you?
yeah. I want to
You
come back
love
to your.
Aladdin so much. You're such a little slut for Aladdin.
It's true. I grew up on Aladdin. The Aladdin Nintendo game, the Super NES game, was excellent.
Oh my God, I've never even seen that.
Oh man, it's good. The Jafar battle at the end against the giant snake. Yeah. So anyway, back to your email thing about your advice is just don't apologize, don't offer an excuse when you made someone wait 2 weeks to get reply to their email. You just say thanks for your patience.
But like, acknowledge their virtue. I think that's a really, really smart way of confronting a person's like hurt feelings, is to
Like,
like,
is it so if it's not like lateness, but it's something else where you've harmed somebody, is it just like thank you for your grace, or like what do you
yeah, yeah. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your compassion. Thank you for, um, thank you for there are myriad ways that people, and I think that that's like an understated and underappreciated part of the excuse process, is it's not just the person who did the hurting who is doing something. It's also the person who was hurt or harmed or annoyed, whatever. Like, they are responding to a scenario as
I
well.
feel like I
And
don't like let's go back to your treadmill for a second. Let's assume that your treadmill had hit a car and caused that car some significant damage. You would obviously apologize.
oh yeah, I would be
You,
bending over backward. Oh my God, are you okay?
right?
What can I do? I'm
You
so
would, but
sorry. I'll
so
pay
like,
for
why is it
everything.
different? Help me unpack. Like, why is it different on the email? Just because it's a minor thing, like the scale changes what the obligation is. You don't need to apologize when the infraction is more minor, because you still did a thing unintentionally that caused someone else some level of harm, even if it's annoyance level harm, right? How come you don't have to say sorry there?
I mean, again, because I think the whole life happens thing. And I also feel like a little bit we all should disrespect email more
This is
than
what it
we do.
is. You want to burn
No,
down the email state.
I hate the emails. But no, but what I'm thinking, what I think that's really smart about that, and that gets to the heart of what maybe is lacking in the excuse realm, is the acknowledgement of the virtue on the other side of the equation. It's not just about me and my intentions and my impact. It's also you and your intentions and your impact on me, the transgressor. And so, like, if you can approach someone who and say, like, wow, like, you're a very patient person given the fact that I did this thing. Or, gosh, gee whiz, like, you're so generous, like for being so willing to like look past, like I feel like you're sort of giving the person like the recognition and the acknowledgement for also a good response, because sometimes people have bad responses to being hurt. And like, I think we should always be encouraging the best behavior in each other. And what is the best way to encourage that? It's not to find fault in somebody, but it is to find virtue in somebody. So like, find the virtue is my ultimate word on this whole discussion, which has been way longer than I was anticipating. We need to wrap this up, is to find the virtue. Don't hold it against people if you don't have to. Like, sure, if you have to, definitely like do the whole holding him against them. But like, if you can remotely, like in the occasions where you can, instead of finding fault in people, find the virtue. You're going to be happier. You're going to have better relationships. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have boundaries, because you can also choose not to have relationships with people who treat you like shit. So there you go.
Yeah, I like
end.
all that as a final word. I still don't think we really got to the bottom of this issue.
I'm so curious if people agree with me and not you. And I hope that they agree with me and not you, because I think it's a darker, sadder, meaner world if they agree with you.
Whoa! You can't just leave it at that.
Bad intent on people all the time.
That's a misrepresentation of my position here. I'm not assuming bad intent. I'm suggesting that we live in a society
that assumes bad intent.
That comes with obligations. That comes with an obligation of respect towards each other. And I think one of my take on that email advice is actually that it comes from a place of looking at the negative impacts of email culture on our lives and understanding that we used to live in this, time frame where you wrote somebody a letter and it would take you a week or two to get a response. Right. And email changed that.
At least.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes
it used to be months when you had to go on a boat across the Atlantic. Right. And now we're living in a technologically augmented reality where it has changed the social expectations about when we should expect to hear back from somebody. And if somebody doesn't reply to you within that expected window, then suddenly you feel miffed in some way. And I think that act of refusing to apologize is actually aimed at pushing back against that social norm and saying, I understand, thank you for your patience. I understand you have this expectation about how we should behave in email world, but I don't live in that world. And I am stubbornly refusing to live in that world. And maybe one day you'll join me and we'll tear down this email expectation together. Like, that's what's really going on. That's why you don't apologize. But when your treadmill falls out the back of someone's truck, you're not pushing back against some norm there about learning how to secure loads. You apologize, as you should, even though it was unintentional.
Yeah, but if they accused me of intentionally not holding down, like not tying down my treadmill so that it would fall on their car, I would
call them crazy.
Crazy. I would be like, no, that is not true. I'm not disrespecting you by not tying my treadmill down. I'm sorry, random person whose car I hit with the treadmill.
Let's turn this over to the audience and ask who's right, because I think there might be some heated disagreement on this one.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. You know where to find us. Submit your thoughts at AmandaKnox.substack.com. AmandaKnox.substack.com. AmandaKnox.com. Yeah. Or, tweet at Amanda or
Instagram DM.
Instagram, yeah. You know how to find her. And thanks for listening, everybody. Stay tuned for the next Who's Right.
Mwah.